Every second, you breathe in oxygen. 7 billion peoples, animals, insects, aquatic life, all taking oxygen. But here is the real question. Why hasn't it finished? If oxygen is being used every second, why is the atmosphere not empty by now? The answer lies in one of the most powerful things on Earth, the oxygen cycle. And if this cycle stops, life stops. Do you want to know? Let us dive in. Welcome to Shark Science. Here we don't just memorize science, we actually understand it. So you see, the oxygen cycle is a biological process that moves through three phases on it. Let's look at the three phases on it. We have the atmosphere, which is the air. We have the lithosphere, which is the rock and that of the land. Then we have the biosphere, which is the living organism or the living things. Oxygen make about 21% of our total air on this particular earth. And in fact, it is the second abundant air right after nitrogen. But one thing that you know is that oxygen does not just sit in the air, it moves constantly. It is everywhere. It occupies everywhere. It moves randomly to accomplish its works. Now, this is what happens when oxygen is released into these phases. Oxygen can be used, recycled, and then regained. So it's used by man or animals or plants. It is then recycled by the plants itself that we have here. Then we then gain it again. So oxygen go through these three phases: used, recycle, and that of regain. Now, with that continuous movement that keeps us alive, other than that, I and you we wouldn't have been living by now. If not that three stages that oxygen go through before we actually even get the oxygen, we wouldn't have been living by now. Now we have the biggest supplier of oxygen. There is something that supplies the oxygen. If you are talking of we gaining oxygen, then we should consider the source of the oxygen. And it is a process. This process is no other process than what is termed as photosynthesis. Now, when we say photosynthesis, what does it mean? Photosynthesis is the process whereby a green plant use water, use sunlight to prepare food on its own. And in that process, it then releases the oxygen to man. Now, this is the simplified equation. We have carbon dioxide plus water. Then to give you, it will react to give you the resultant of glucose and water. So that is how photosynthesis okay. When carbon dioxide and water meet, they will then merge, form glucose and that of oxygen. Now, plant do not take in the oxygen, it rather gives the oxygen and then it will absorb the carbon dioxide into their tiny openings known as the stomata. Now, what of water? Water is then absorbed through the roots. Now, using the sunlight, they then manufacture their own food. So this is how the process oxygen is being supplied. Oxygen is released into the atmosphere by the plants. The plant will then take in the carbon dioxide, use it to prepare its own food, and then the water that's as a result of the reaction between the carbon dioxide and that of the water, it will give you glucose. Which now, as a result of this, oxygen is released. Oxygen is then released as a byproduct, and you then have access to the oxygen. Now, you won't believe this. Nearly 90% of the oxygen we breathe come from the ocean algae, the one inside the water, the greenish substance inside the water. That is the ocean algae. So imagine we destroying our water bodies. What will happen to us. We may deprive ourselves from this oxygen we are talking about. Now, what happened to this particular oxygen? Let me hear you out in the comment section. Now, living organisms such as animals, humans, use this oxygen to respire through the process called respiration. So, as you breathe in and out, you are respiring, and it is as a result of this oxygen released by the plants that has made it possible for you to be able to breathe, respire without any much stress. Now, during the process of respiration, this is what happens. Oxygen is taken in, glucose is then broken down, energy is then released, and carbon dioxide is produced. That carbon dioxide returns to the atmosphere, and the whole cycle continues. So that's how it works. Now, decomposition. When plants and animals die, where does it go? They don't just disappear. Now, we have the bacteria and fungi breaking these dead animals and plants down. Before they will be able to do that, they use oxygen for them to be able to break these particular animals and that of plants. Now, as they are breaking, taking in the oxygen, now they release carbon dioxide back into the atmosphere. So we are seeing where the carbon dioxide source is coming from and that of the oxygen too is coming from. As time passed by, over millions of years passed by, this particular dead organism or decomposition can result into coal, petroleum, natural gases, and all of these are fossil fuel. So your petrol that you get, they are from dead living organisms that died years back. And we are getting this petroleum, we are getting coal, we are getting these stuffs, and we use it each and every day. When we burn this particular fossil fuel, we still need oxygen for this one to be powered. Other than that, it won't even on. Imagine setting up your fire using a coal without any oxygen. You will bear with me that it's not going to on or lit, or because there is no presence of oxygen. Now, as the oxygen comes in, there will be a release of much carbon dioxide, and this process is known as combustion. So, the process of which we use oxygen to burn our fossil fuel, and then carbon dioxide is then released into the atmosphere. It's termed as combustion. Now, unlike respiration, combustion, it is naturally unbalanced because if you are burning, the resultant is always carbon dioxide, which go a long way to affect human and that of animals. So the burning of this particular fossil fuel can disrupt the natural cycle of iron, and that is why it is often advised not to be burning a lot of stuff. Even if you burn, it should be in a confined place, a place that will not have impacts on the environment. Now, as humans are and animals are absorbing oxygen, the ocean too absorb the same oxygen so that aquatic animals in this particular ocean can live. These aquatic animals also absorb the oxygen. That is why they are able to live under the ocean. The carbon dioxide is actually released right from the ocean into the air, and then oxygen then enters. Now, this exchange keeps the marine life stable. Imagine polluting this particular ocean or our water bodies. What might happen? Much oxygen wouldn't be able to dissolve into this particular ocean because it will be blocked by the waste materials deposited inside the ocean. And that is why it is often advised that we should never, never, and never in our life dump refuse into the ocean or any water bodies, because whatever that is dumped into the ocean bounces back to us. It has a long-term implication which we may not experience it now, but later we will experience it. Now with this, imagine oxygen level is reduced in water. What might happen? It may cause the fish in the ocean to die. And that is why it is very necessary to consider certain stuff, certain action of yours when you are managing your waste. You shouldn't just dump the waste into refuse dump, but rather put it in a safe place that will not have that long-term implication on you. Through the oxygen cycle, something also happens which is known as rusting. When the oxygen reacts with any ion, it then rusts the ion, or what happened is oxidation. Oxidation then occur, and it will then bring this particular rusting. And the reason why the rusting occurs is as a result of the oxygen reacting with the ion. And why this cycle really matters? One thing that you should consider about why this particular cycle matter is as a result of one. There is one powerful truth. The only natural source of oxygen on earth is photosynthesis. It is through the plant that we get the oxygen. Imagine all the plants are cut, or as a result of deforestation, industrialization, and all other factors that will come in to suppress the life of this particular plant goes down. What might happen? The oxygen will definitely weakens, and life wouldn't be favorable as we all have it now.